Schofield, CTO, and he's going to be talking to us about the AI horizon.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, so I think what we're going to see is a lot of themes being repeated today. I'm going to reinforce some of the things that's already been said. Some of the things that we've already talked about will come from a security point of view, see where we're actually going with this technology.
First, a couple of things that I found while researching for this presentation, a couple of little simple facts, but interesting that 84% of people surveyed in the UK are utilising AI daily. But really interestingly, only 34% of them realise that they actually are. And that's because it's actually here and it's baked into everything that we do on all the digital platforms that we touch. We've already talked about chatbots and engagement and linguists. I have a similar situation, by the way. And it's not great, the experience at times, but not only the software that it's baked into, the actual people who make the software, 5% of the software is being either written by AI or it's being used to enhance the software development process. And that is meant to grow, or predicted to grow, to 50% by 2027. So something that's only just in its infancy is now going to be used by half the population that produces software. I personally think that's lowballing it. I think software developers will start to use it and it will grow much faster than that. But one thing is certain, and we've seen it today already, that AI has got opinions for everybody. Everyone wants to think about it. You can see many of them there. ChatGPT is the precursor for Skynet because you have to have a Terminator reference in any AI presentation that you do. But one thing that I like to do is just introduce the concept of scale. So we keep talking about all this massive compute power that we've got and all these things that it can do. And one of the lines on there is, AI can't do anything that we can't do. And that's to a certain degree true. But if you look at ChatGPT and you ask it a question, you have any idea how many calculations have to occur for it just to give him the first word to do? So I researched it and it's a quadrillion calculations. That's 1,000,000 billion calculations just to generate the first word. And it's being used every day. If we said, if we said, let's find the perfect human that can do that piece of work for us, and they didn't need any sustenance, they were never going to get ill, they were always on time, they were working 24/7, how long do you think it would take a human to do a quadrillion calculations?
Sorry. How long do you think it would take to do a quadrillion calculations? I can't even talk now. And the calculation is 31.7 million years. So it's not that it can't do things that we can, it's how quickly it can do things. And that really tried to demonstrate the scale. And a message that we've heard repeatedly today is the importance of data accuracy. And I just wanted to shed a bit more insight onto that comment. Because they're absolutely right. We've got all these disconnected systems, all these fragmented sources of data. But it's not just about that. Back in when Obamacare came into the United States, a lot of the health insurance companies put pressure on the hospitals to deliver efficiencies. As a good example. And they turned to AI. Now, the problem was that when they looked at a simple example, they genuinely believed that if we've got a series of questions that we need to ask and it's going to come out with an answer, then we can replicate that with AI. And the one that they picked for as a trial was a test for pneumonia. So when people came in, if they were suspected of having pneumonia, you would go through a series of questions, and then you would either be admitted to hospital or you'd be sent home with some medication. So in principle, this should have worked. But the challenge was, we gave all the data for the patients that came into the hospital. We then gave all the data, and it was all cleaned and all verified and all structured. And we gave all the data for the patients that then had problems and more challenges. So when they launched the AI agent to be able to do this piece of work for them, it missed a critical piece of data. So one of the key questions was, has the patient got asthma? If they've got asthma, they get complications. But in the AI model, it didn't have the data about who had been admitted to the hospital. So in its basis, it said, if you've got asthma, actually nobody had further complications. They didn't have further complications because they were being treated in hospital. But if we just let the AI agent go rogue, then we would have been sending people home with serious medical conditions. So it's not just about the quality of your data. The reason and the study that found was it's because we're not involving people. We've said it today many times, AI complements people. You have workers in your organizations that understand how your organization works. If you are thinking of deploying AI, get them involved. They will sense check it. They will tell you things that you will miss. It's really, really important. And that's going to continue because in your space, we get more and more sensors. We need to understand occupancy. Somebody said it earlier. Let's put another IoT sensor up. We need to be able to understand temperature. Let's put another sensor up. But the problem with that is it's exasperating the issue that we've got with data because all these sensors keep sending out all this information. And one sensor will talk to its provider. Another sensor will talk to its other provider. And how do you bring that all together? And what the reality is, we end up with either data islands or cloud fog, where you've got multiple sources of this information. So you've just made what was a difficult problem already. You've brought a solution, but it's actually made the problem harder. And then trying to sprinkle some AI dust over the top of that becomes incredibly challenging. So, is AI good or bad? Very simple question, but very difficult to answer. There are good sides and bad sides to any technology whenever you deploy it. So just to take a sidestep on this, quick show of hands. Anybody heard of this phrase before? Not many, right? I hadn't heard of it before I did this presentation a few years ago. But it was invented by a robotics engineer back in the 1970s, a guy called Masahiro Mori. And his principle was he created robots, and the more he made them look like humans, the more affinity we had with the robots. But then there was a kind of inflection point where it absolutely plummeted because he made them look too real. So we have an instinct in us, which he coined the uncanny valley, that says it looks good, but I know it's not real. The biggest example of that is things like waxwork dummies. You can look at that as a still photo with no moving parts. It's very easy to see that while it's a good replica, one of them isn't real, and that's your uncanny valley being triggered. Now, why is that relevant? Well, there's a lot of tools. We've talked about ChatGPT a lot today. OpenAI's Sora, VO2, Runway, these now introduce text-to-video. And text-to-video has a great benchmark that the internet has to set, which is Will Smith eating pasta. Can't be that easy, right? So we created a sentence, a movie trailer featuring the adventures of a 30-year-old spaceman wearing a red wool-knitted motorcycle helmet, blue sky, salt desert, and you get the picture. All fake. And there are telltale signs, but this is technology from 2024. It's got even better since, and it's not going to get any worse. No cameras, no artistic effects, just text to video. Why is that important in terms of security? You hear it all over the underground. See it, say it, sort it. That's how we operate. We see something, we do something. If we can't believe what we see, how do we actually start to manage the situation? So we have to have mechanisms for that. And this is not scaremongering, this is real. So give you an example, a practical example, it's been in the press. There was a CFO got a video conference call from the CEO of a business, UK business, saying we have to pay $100 million or whatever the figure was to a third-party account, but it can't go on the books. And the CFO rightly said, not going to happen. So the CEO said, well, what do you want me to do? What do I have to do to prove to you that this has to happen? So he said, I want to speak to every member of the board. The CEO said, leave that with me. I'll get that sorted. So during the day, the CFO got more video conference calls with every member of his board. And at the end of the day, he paid the check. Not one member of that board made a phone call. It was using face swap and voice swap technologies, and that company was out millions of pounds. So this is real, right? It's not scaremonger, it's real. We have to have mechanisms, as jaw-droppingly good as AI is, we have to be able to have mechanisms to detect it and prevent it. So how do you get that balance? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about, the security journey now, because one of the things that we've talked about is AI is new. Well, AI is new, generative AI is new to us, but it's not new as a technology. So I'm going to talk to you about the journey that we've been through. So if I take a simple thing, we'll talk about this timeline, we'll talk about what security's been doing with that timeline and what AI was doing. So to start with, we had expert systems. So these were systems that we developed and programmed to do specific things, very costly, very expensive, not great. We had low resolution images, a lot of them were analog, it wasn't IP, so we were struggling a little bit, but considering what we could do at the time, it was good. But then machine learning came out, and we embraced that immediately. And we started to do things like what we call analytics. And from that, we can now draw lines on video, and if something crosses that line, we can then set a trigger, we can set alarms, virtual fencing, things of that nature. It was good, but it was very prone to false alarms generated, and then you're getting a lot of more mismanagement of information. So let's get to the second generation, where machine learning starts to really adapt. And people have brought up today about biometrics. They've improved significantly, but we were talking about biometrics in the mid-90s. So you look at where we are now, it's significantly changed. But again, we've got ANPR, so number plate recognition, facial recognition systems, all because of machine learning. This for me was the game changer. Back in 2000, well, late 2000s, we started to be able to understand what images were within a video. So we could classify things like that's a dog, that's a bicycle, that's a truck. Immediately we were getting data from video. So we've now got one of the richest sensors that there can possibly be, because if we can see it, we can do something with it. But the problem with that then added to the same situation that I was talking about a moment ago. We ended up with information overload, because you've got too much of the information now. So we've gone from nothing to absolutely masses of information. So the question is, what can we do as a fourth generation that can fix that problem? And there's two sides to it. There's the volume of information and then the size of the problem. So if we look at the volume challenge, a single camera, if we're running it at 15 frames a day, will create 1.3 million frames per day to analyze. If you take 100 cameras, this is not an unusual thing for a normal site. In 100 cameras, 47.3 billion frames that we've got to analyze. But if we layer the technologies and we take those and we add machine learning and we do AI, deep learning on that, we end up with a new technology which we call unusual behavior. And what this allows us to do is we can take a camera and it will learn what is normal at a given time of day, at a given day of the week, and say, I don't really understand what's not happening here, but this bit over here, I don't normally see. So that could be things like, I don't know, if you've got a bike going up on a pavement, that's not usual. It normally sees people walk on the pavement, things of that nature. And by doing that, we can get it down to 3.65 million frames a day. Now, I know these are stats, but what we're saying is almost 100% improvement over the raw data. So we've taken all that masses of data and shrunk it significantly. But we can do more than that. People have already mentioned AI agents. So we're now seeing the development of AI agents as well, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit what that does. It's proven within the security industry that if you're looking at a video for more than 15 minutes, you effectively go blind. So there's a study where it shows people watching them and they've had a gorilla go across the screen, and there need to be people after and say, what about the gorilla? And they go, what gorilla? So we have to have better ways of doing this. Unusual behavior is one of them. But using natural language, without any skills now necessarily, we can actually explain the problem that we want to be alerted to. Are people not wearing correct PPE? Is there spilt liquid in the scene? Are there too many people in this area? Has tailgating occurred? Or has there been a risk to life? So we're not now programming, we're doing a natural language type of explanation. Tell me when you see this. So if we look at a real video, now, when I first saw this, I think that's pretty unusual that you've got three guys walking down the road, but evidently in this street, that's quite normal. So this is what we see, and the perception is that we've got cameras invading our privacy, but this is what AI sees. This is what we call a pixel hash. So by having that, we can then learn the pattern. That's where unusual behavior is triggered. And in this particular example, it's this area that it said, I've not seen that pattern before. So if we overlay the video back onto that and see what did it think was unusual. A tree collapsing on a car, I would say, is pretty unusual. But it picked it up from the pattern, not from the actual tree falling, which is great. And that's kind of where the technology is today, right now. However, what we're about to introduce is something that can take advantage of the next stage, because we're ignoring all of this data. We have all this data, we've collected it all. Surely we can tell ourselves something more about the scene. So if you look at the main video, you can see that was pretty close for those guys. But if we bring in the AI agent, without anybody looking, it can say, has there been a risk to life? Yes, there's been a risk to life, and then we can notify the appropriate people. So for the first time, we can give contextual intelligence to a scene. And if you think about all the use cases that can be used for, if we can see it, then we can do something about it. Lots of different use cases that can improve health and safety, awareness, early warnings. And a previous speaker that I was looking at when some of the presentations from the past said, actions speak louder than dashboards, and I couldn't agree more. But from my perspective, why do we have to choose? We can bring the actions into an intelligence platform that can bring all those cloud silos together, can aggregate our data in a clean, understandable format, and then bring that out to a BI tool, be it Power BI, Splunk, Tableau, other BI tools are available. But you can then utilize that. So my question or my challenge to you is, reframe your security investment. Look at the technologies that you've already got in your buildings before you start putting more and more data points in. Because they might be the ultimate sensor you didn't realize that you actually had. And at our business, what we work on is a principle called the technology bridge. We understand where you are today, where you want to get to, and then we work out a roadmap for you to get there. And that comes back to a lot of the speakers' points today, which has been define your business problem and then start to understand how you're going to solve it. But we are seeing shifts and trends. You can unlock business transformation with AI if done correctly, with the governance and the data and everything else that I've said and all the speakers have said so far today. You have to make sure the integrity of the supply chain, in my opinion, is there. There's no point in saying you want somebody from cybersecurity, information security, AI, you go and pick the right products and then you get the wrong person to deliver it who doesn't understand it. Because actually at that point, you've just negated all the benefit you were trying to bring. So make sure the people that you're engaging understand all of these technologies and how to deploy them. Make sure they focus on AI, cyber and information security compliance and transfer from information systems to actionable platforms. So my takeaways for you really are, as an organisation, we deliver value beyond security. We're a technology company that focuses on security, but in fairness, we're seeing a lot of value that our technology can bring to the wider organisations. AI does enable a world of insight, but only if done correctly. And make sure that you've got that integrity of the supply chain. Thank you very much.